And so there's just so much fast-paced living that you do. But I know when I met you 2 years ago, you were about to take a break and go on a little sabbatical, a little rest. And so you mentioned you build those in to your life. Now, why is rest so important? We're in a region right now, talk about fast-paced, around the DMV, around DC, people running themselves ragged. Why is rest so important, would you say?
So there's this Bible verse that says, without vision, you'll perish. And for me, I get vision when I'm still, when I'm resting. It doesn't come in a place of like busyness. My mind gets cluttered in busyness. My emotions get overwhelmed when I'm in busyness. And if you do like any research on the brain, you can research serotonin levels, endorphin levels, like just how much busyness really clouds our thinking. And so I remember just sitting back and being like, God, I don't want to miss the vision of what you have in store for my life and for people around me. Like if I am constantly in this state of chaos, or constantly in a state of fight or flight, because that's what our central nervous system kind of goes to when we are overwhelming ourselves with busyness. I don't want to live in that state. So how can I monitor this? And that is when I said, all right, if I'm going to be working this many days on, I'm going to take this many days off. And I have a rule where we do have a Sabbath every week, but then also like I can't be gone from home more than 2 weeks at a time. So even if it's like I come back home and it's only for 2 days, I at least have to touch the ground, refocus, see my family, see loved ones, see friends, and just have a reset, because it's a lot being out on the road. And you watch all these, I was thinking about this the other day, all of these music documentaries that come out about these artists, right? There's always some element of a mental breakdown that's involved. And I'm like, I don't want to see that happen in my life. And I know, I mean, there was a point in 2020, like probably right before we talked, or maybe even right after we talked, that was starting to happen in my life. And I realized, it was like a tidal wave of what I had just experienced for the past 8 years hit me because we had to stop. And I remember re-entering this season saying, I don't want that to be the scenario anymore. I don't want a tidal wave when I finish in the next 10 years to smack me in the face. And what happens is you do start to find yourself in panic and anxiety and things like this, but it's just because of sheer busyness. It's because you're not waking up in the morning and waiting on the Lord and saying, okay, God, how are you going to orchestrate my day when every single hour is planned? And so, I say that to say, I don't want, if we zoom out and I have a documentary that comes out in 20 years, I don't want it to be that there was a mental breakdown that this is zero shame on any person who deals with this, because I dealt with this back in 2021 and 2022. They were talking about ketamine and all the different things, that was brought up into my scenario of like, all right, how are we going to treat this kind of state that I was in? And the only way through it is through Jesus. The only way to get, because otherwise you'll just get in a loop. And the only way to set yourself free is to say, God, I know that you see me in this moment, and just help me figure out a way through it, not around it, not like retreating from it, but through it, through the panic, through anxiety. So that being said, there's no shame on anyone who struggles with that, or any of these documentaries that have come out with people that deal with that. I'm more saying like, how can we help? How can we be a people that change that narrative? And especially as an artist and a musician, I'm like, I don't want to see the person next to me that I love fall into a state of deep depression and difficulty. So what can we do about it? And I do think a lot, I would say 90% of it involves rest.
Well, we've forgotten, I love so much you mentioned the concept of Sabbath. We've forgotten that Jesus did it. God did it. Seventh day he rested. That's a concept, a biblical commandment actually, to rest. That's so fantastic.